Do you really want to write your book but aren't sure you have the time? This episode is just for you. Let's learn some productivity tips in today's Journey to KidLit podcast, episode number 12. Welcome to the Journey to KidLit podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Van Sickle, and each week on the show, we'll discuss what it takes to write, publish, and market your kids' book. Let's get started. This episode is brought to you by the Ultimate Writing Binder, the number one resource all children's book writers need to go from idea to finished kids' book. To learn more, visit journeytokidlit.com/ultimate writing binder. Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Journey to KidLit podcast. As always, I'm Brooke Van Sickle, and I'm your host today. Today we're going to be talking about productivity and finding time to write. I know this is a huge struggle for a lot of you because you let me know that. It's a struggle for myself. So how do we do it? We have this book that we want to write, but we're not really sure that we have the time to do it. Well, there are 4 things that I found that have been very helpful in my writing journey myself. I've been able to write almost 5 million words in a little under 2 years. And before that, I didn't even think I could write over 10,000 words. So I think these are very, very helpful. The first of that is you should find a time that works for you within your schedule and actually commit to it. So I want you to think of this like a dentist appointment. If you were to call up the dentist and be like, hey, I need to get my bi-yearly cleaning, when you have time, and they tell you Tuesday, you're not going to miss out on that appointment. Same thing if you go get your hair done. You're not going to miss that. You need to treat your writing time the exact same way. If you can only reserve 1 hour a week to write, that's your writing time. You're booked, you're committed, it's not movable. And that's the way you need to treat it. At the same time, you can't just go to your computer during your writing time and just sit there and stare for a full hour. That's not very productive either. So what do? You need to have a plan for your writing time. And this means like deciding what you're going to be working on before you get there. So are you going to be moving forward on a new chapter? Are you starting a new book? Have you outlined that book? Do you know who your characters are? Have you done your research and that kind of stuff? Be prepared for your writing time before you go. That way you know exactly what you're going to be working on. And even if you are struggling to get to the motivation to actually do it, you're like, I know I was supposed to write today at noon and I just don't feel like writing. That's okay. What I found is if you just need to do it. So just go to your computer still, sit down and just either reread something that you've already worked on, start typing out something terrible, like whatever's coming to your head, like my character decided to go here and that's what they did. And that doesn't sound very good. But it's going to start getting your brain working. That way you're able to say, okay, I know what's kind of happening. I'm starting to get creative. Okay, yeah, I actually know what I want to write now. Sometimes it's just the act of doing it that's actually going to get you to move forward in your story. And if after 20 minutes of you just sitting and you're still not feeling it, you have my permission to walk away. But give yourself at least 20 minutes because it sometimes takes a little bit to get those creative vibes going. Just sit down, try to do some editing and do some rereading in the meantime. Then the other side of that, along with the planning for your writing time, is the third tip is don't waste that writing time. Because a lot of the times we think stuff is important, like knowing what our town is called, knowing our characters' names. If you're trying to research a synonym to a word, or you're trying to think of a word, or you want to call a noun something different because your world is more magical, that is not a good use of your writing time, especially if you only have 1 hour a week. So when should you do that instead? Because obviously you need to have a character name, right? I know. But you should do that during your spare time. So think about it. Like, do you have time in the morning where you're just sitting there, like not really doing anything? Maybe 15 minutes before you get out of bed because you're really just not wanting to get out of bed? Or right at night, you're watching Netflix, and instead of spending an hour watching that, you could have your laptop on your computer, your phone, and researching girls' names or boys' names and getting on the thesaurus and checking out synonyms or, coming up with different fun, magical words that you want to have for your world. That's the time that you should be doing those kind of more time wasters instead of during your writing time, because you want to really be utilizing your writing time to actually move your story forward. So either, making sure it's more polished and making sure you're getting those edits in, or actually writing, moving it, adding an extra chapter, doing a whole new rewrite, redoing your picture book, writing something new. That's what it should be used for. A lot of times we end up wasting time because we start to have doubts about ourselves, or we start to experience some imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? Should I even be writing this? And that's stuff that can hold us back. So that's why if you have a plan and you actually know what you're going to be working on, and you don't give yourself permission to waste it sitting on like Facebook or something and having all these extra tabs open, it really helps you. And then the last tip that I have is you need to be disciplined. I think this is actually the hardest thing for us to do as humans, because discipline sounds like it should be a bad word, but really all it means is having good habits and committing to things. When you first start writing, it's actually going to feel a little weird. You're not going to always want to do it, but if you continue to show up and you make a habit and you don't let other people override your commitments. You don't start saying yes to people. You start saying, no, I'm actually booked from this time to this time. That's going to build that discipline. It's going to make it so it's more routine, and you're going to actually start finding that you have more time to write, that you're writing more. You're going to have more confidence in yourself as a writer. It's all really good. Discipline is awesome. It just doesn't sound like it should be. It sounds like an evil word. Yes. So I hope that those tips help you. So just to recap, the 4 biggest productivity tips to help you find time to write: have a time and actually commit to it. 2, make a plan for what you're going to do during your writing time. 3, don't waste your time with those little time wasters like looking up on thesaurus.com. Those can wait for outside your writing time. And 4, be disciplined. So even if it feels hard, still show up and do it, at least for those 20 minutes. That about does it for today's episode of the Journey to KidLit podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have a thought about today's episode or a suggestion for future ones, be sure to shoot me an email or reach out via Twitter. And if you liked what you heard today, I would love it if you would leave a review. And while you're there, subscribe to be notified of new episodes. Until next time, happy writing.